The metallic scale burned cold against Alina's palm as she stumbled up the beach, lungs heaving, seawater streaming from her wetsuit. "Maya!" she screamed, scanning the empty horizon where her daughter had vanished moments before. The research vessel bobbed 50 yards offshore, oblivious to the impossible event that had just occurred. 3 days later, Alina sat stone-faced in a sterile government office while the sympathetic but skeptical agent slid her statement across the desk. "Dr. Vasquez, people don't simply disappear in broad daylight." The Coast Guard found no evidence of unusual marine activity or unauthorized vessels in the area. "Then how do you explain this?" Alina placed the scale-like fragment on the table. Under the fluorescent lights, its surface rippled with colors that shouldn't exist in nature. The agent's eyes widened momentarily before his professional mask returned. "We'll need to confiscate that for analysis." "No." Alina closed her fingers around the object, her only connection to Maya. "This stays with me." That night, Alina barricaded herself in her lab at the Oceanographic Institute, placing the fragment under every analytical device at her disposal. The spectrometer couldn't identify its elemental composition. The electron microscope revealed structures that reconfigured themselves when observed. Most disturbing, the object emitted faint pulses of radiation that matched the exact rhythm of her heartbeat. Her colleagues grew concerned. The university granted compassionate leave. The local media briefly covered the story. Renowned marine biologist's daughter missing at sea, before moving on to more sensational headlines. Only Dr. Chen, her former mentor, listened without judgment. "There are phenomena in this universe that defy conventional explanation," he said, examining the fragment through his ancient bifocals. "The border between advanced technology and magic becomes essentially non-existent." 30 days after the vanishing, Alina found herself standing on the same stretch of beach, the fragment clutched in her hand like a talisman. The moon cast a silver path across the water, marking the spot where Maya had disappeared. Alina had stopped calling it an abduction in public. It only reinforced others' perception that grief had unhinged her. The fragment grew warmer, then almost unbearably hot. Alina gasped but couldn't release it, watching in astonishment as it melted through her skin without causing pain, vanishing into her palm like quicksilver. That night, her dreams were filled with unfamiliar stars and vast structures that dwarfed planets. She heard Maya's voice, distant but unmistakable. "Mom, I can feel you searching. They don't understand what they've done by taking me." When Alina awoke, a delicate pattern of metallic lines traced her forearm, glowing faintly before fading into her skin. On her computer, an impossible message blinked on the screen. Complex mathematical equations interspersed with genomic sequences. At the bottom, in simple text, "These coordinates matter. Find Dr. Weizhong. He'll understand what they've done to me. They're watching Earth now. Be careful." Alina's hands trembled as she downloaded the data onto a secure drive. For the first time in a month, the hollow ache in her chest gave way to something dangerous and sharp-edged: hope. Alina traced the fading pattern on her arm, where the alien fragment had merged with her flesh. The quantum connection strengthened with each passing day, Maya's presence becoming a constant whisper at the edges of her consciousness. Sometimes it was just emotions, fear followed by determination, curiosity overshadowing despair. Other times, fragmented images flashed through Alina's mind. Sterile white corridors, beings with too many limbs moving in perfect synchronization, and observation chambers filled with creatures that defied biological classification. Dr. Weizhong's apartment was in a dilapidated building on the outskirts of Singapore, a far cry from the prestigious laboratory he once directed. Alina knocked 3 times before the door creaked open, revealing a thin man with unkempt hair and eyes that darted nervously over her shoulder. "You're Alina Vasquez," he said, not a question but a statement of fact. "I've been expecting you since they took your daughter." The apartment's interior was a chaotic testament to a brilliant mind working without constraints. Walls covered in equations, holographic projections of molecular structures hovering in corners, and handcrafted devices humming with unexplained energy. We gestured toward Alina's arm. The connection manifested physically, didn't it? Remarkable. The collectors rarely make such elementary mistakes. You know who took her? Not who. Why corrected? What? The collectors aren't individuals as we understand them. They're biological components of a vast intelligence that catalogs life forms across multiple galaxies. Alina sank into a chair. Why Maya? Why my daughter? Proximity to the gateway, perhaps, or something in her genetic profile attracted their attention. Wei adjusted a device that resembled a crystal radio built from salvaged hospital equipment. What matters is that they've never encountered a species like ours, one capable of maintaining quantum entanglement through emotional bonds. They have no defense against what you and Maya have created. That night, with Wei's calibration device amplifying their connection, Alina experienced her first clear communication with Maya. Her daughter's consciousness engulfed her completely, sharing not just thoughts but entire sensory experiences. The collectors think they're studying me. Maya's thoughts resonated within Alina's mind, but I'm learning more about them than they realize. They categorize by physical capabilities, never considering psychological adaptability. They've placed me with other mammalian species, but I've made contact with beings from the insectoid and crystalline wards too. Alina felt her daughter's fierce pride and the undercurrent of fear she tried to suppress. I'm coming for you, Alina promised. Not yet, Maya cautioned. I'm altering their perception of human baseline capabilities. If they realize what we can do, they'll terminate the study immediately. I need time to implement perception filters in their central network. The connection wavered as distant alarms echoed through Maya's section of the facility. They're beginning to suspect. Maya's thoughts came faster now. Their overseer just ordered expanded neural mapping. Mom, I've left an access path through their quantum network. It's hidden in the data I sent you. If Wei helps you navigate it. The connection severed abruptly, leaving Alina gasping in the darkness of Wei's apartment, the ghostly impression of alien architecture still floating before her eyes and her daughter's final desperate instruction burning in her mind. Find Captain Okoro. She's been there before. Captain Imani Okoro's service record listed her final mission as a routine satellite repair that ended in tragedy when her navigation systems failed. What remained classified was her encounter in Earth's orbit with an object that defied physical laws, and the 3 weeks she spent missing before being recovered floating in a disabled escape pod, babbling about collectors of worlds. Alina and Wei tracked her to a remote observatory in the Chilean mountains, where Okoro had built a sophisticated monitoring station disguised as an astronomical research facility. You've got the mark, Okoro said immediately, her eyes fixed on the faint pattern beneath Alina's skin. Without another word, she led them through a hidden entrance into an underground chamber humming with technology far beyond current scientific understanding. After they released me, I began finding others, Okoro explained, activating a holographic display showing dozens of locations across the globe where similar anomalies had been recorded. They'd been visiting Earth for centuries, but their activities increased dramatically in the past decade. Why let you go? Wei asked, examining the alien-enhanced equipment with unconcealed fascination. Okoro's expression darkened. I wasn't supposed to survive. My release was a mistake. A containment pod malfunctioned during a sample transfer. What they didn't realize was that brief exposure to their environment altered my cellular structure. She placed her hand against a seemingly ordinary wall, which rippled and became transparent, revealing a chamber containing fragments of technology, similar to the object that had merged with Alina. You've been building something, Alina whispered, understanding dawning. A way to access their transit network, Okoro confirmed. But I lack the coordinates, the precise quantum signature of their research facility. Her eyes locked with Alina's. Until now. That night, as Wei integrated Maya's data with Okoro's systems, Alina learned the true extent of the captain's operation. A dozen former abductees worked in the facility, each with unique physiological changes resulting from their experiences, a linguist who could interpret the collector's multidimensional communication patterns, a physicist whose altered perception allowed her to see quantum potentialities, a child prodigy who had returned with the ability to mentally interface with complex machinery. They took something from each of us, Okoro said quietly, but they also left something behind, something that connects us to them and to each other. A proximity alarm shattered the stillness. On the monitors, a military convoy approached the mountain base. Someone detected the energy surge when we connected to Maya. Wei said, fingers flying across interfaces. We need to leave now. Okoro nodded grimly. Contingency protocol Epsilon. Everyone to the launch bay. Alina felt her connection to Maya pulse with sudden intensity. Through her daughter's eyes, she glimpsed massive beings moving with new urgency through the research facility, converging on a central chamber where a swirling portal was taking form. They know. Alina gasped. They're activating their own gate. Okoro led them through a concealed passage to a cavernous underground hangar where an impossible craft waited, sleek and otherworldly, yet bearing the unmistakable marks of human modification. Salvaged from my escape pod and rebuilt molecule by molecule, Okoro explained, as the hangar roof retracted to reveal the star-filled Chilean sky. We have 48 hours before they lock down every gateway in the solar system permanently. As the craft hummed to life beneath them, Alina felt Maya's desperate hope merging with her own determination. The journey that had begun with one life taken from Earth was about to expand beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. Okoro's hybrid vessel sliced through Earth's atmosphere, accelerating at speeds that should have crushed its occupants. Instead, Alina felt only a gentle pressure as the craft's compensators, technology Wei claimed was decades beyond human development, adjusted to their biological limitations. Europa's subsurface ocean has been hiding more than just alien microbes, Okoro explained, guiding the ship toward Jupiter's icy moon. The collectors established a gateway there millennia ago, using the radiation from Jupiter as a natural camouflage against detection. Alina pressed her palm against the viewport as the massive gas giant came into view, its swirling storms dwarfing their vessel. Her connection to Maya flickered like a distant radio signal, growing fainter as they left Earth behind. I'm losing her, Alina whispered, panic rising in her throat. Wei adjusted settings on a device attached to Alina's forearm, where the alien pattern had first appeared. The quantum entanglement is distance independent, but Jupiter's magnetosphere interferes with our amplification equipment. Once we're through the gateway, the connection should stabilize. They breach Europa's ice shell through a hidden thermal vent, descending into the vast, dark ocean beneath. There, embedded in the seafloor and glowing with inner light, stood a massive ring structure. Ancient symbols curved along its surface, similar to markings Alina had seen in her shared visions with Maya. Approaching the activation point, Okoro announced, her voice tight with concentration. Dr. Zhang, initialize the resonance sequence. Dr. Vasquez, we need your connection now. Alina closed her eyes, focusing on the quantum thread that connected her to her daughter across impossible distances. She projected her consciousness along that thread, feeling Maya's immediate response, a surge of recognition and purpose. Through Maya's eyes, she glimpsed a control panel in the research facility. Maya's captors had left her unattended, confident in their containment protocols, never suspecting she could influence systems outside her isolation chamber. With precise movements guided by Alina's scientific knowledge combined with her own intuition, Maya entered a complex sequence. On Europa, the ancient gateway thrummed to life. Symbols along its circumference illuminated one by one, the water around them beginning to spiral toward the center of the ring. Gateway synchronization at 60%, Wei called out, monitoring fluctuating energy readings, 70%, 80%. A violent shudder rocked their vessel. Outside, sleek black shapes cut through the dark water. Automated defense drones awakened after thousands of years of dormancy. They're trying to stop us, Okoro growled, engaging evasive maneuvers. The gateway requires 95% synchronization to stabilize. Alina pushed harder along the quantum connection, her consciousness merging more completely with Maya's. Together, mother and daughter completed the activation sequence as the first defensive drone lashed onto their hull. Drilling mechanisms engage. The gateway erupted with blinding light. Water and energy spiraled into a perfect vortex at its center. Okoro gunned the engines, accelerating toward the heart of the maelstrom as the ship's outer hull began to breach. The transition felt like being turned inside out on a molecular level. Alina's senses fragmented and reassembled in impossible configurations. For a moment that stretched toward infinity, she existed everywhere and nowhere, her consciousness scattered across vast distances before suddenly snapping back together. Their damaged vessel emerged into unfamiliar space, drifting powerless beside a massive station of alien design. Through viewport, an enormous ringed gas giant dominated the horizon. Similar to Saturn, but with rings that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. "We made it," Y whispered, awe overtaking scientific detachment. "Mom." Maya's voice resonated clearly in Alina's mind, stronger than ever before. "I can see you now. But you're not alone out there. They're coming." The nomads moved like living glass, their translucent bodies flowing rather than walking as they led Alina's group through the abandoned space station. Bioluminescent patterns rippled across their skin, a language of light that Wei struggled to interpret through his hastily modified translation algorithms. Your arrival activated ancient protocols. The nomad elder, who called itself luminance, communicated. No species has used this gateway hub in 700 years of your time measurement. The station's central chamber opened into a vast spherical space. At its center floated a three-dimensional projection of the galaxy, certain stars and systems glowing with particular intensity. The Concordet's research facilities, Luminance explained, tendrils of light extending from its form to indicate specific points. And this, a pulsing crimson star at the galactic core, is where they hold your offspring. Maya isn't just being held, Alina said, her connection to her daughter strengthening with each passing moment. She's changing something fundamental in their system. Luminance's body flickered with patterns that Wei's translator interpreted as surprise. Impossible. The Concordet's network is impervious to manipulation by lesser species. Humans aren't lesser, Okoro stated flatly. Just different. A communication panel on the chamber wall activated spontaneously, projecting the image of a being unlike any they had encountered. A crystalline entity with multiple appendages arranged in perfect symmetry. "I am Resonance," the being introduced itself. "Speaker for the Coalition of the Overlooked. Your daughter's activities have been noticed across 17 sectors." "Coalition of the Overlooked?" Wei questioned. "Those deemed unworthy of Concordat membership," Resonance explained. "Species classified as evolutionary dead ends or developmental risks. We have existed in the shadows of their empire for millennia, watching, waiting. Your Maya has accomplished what we believed impossible. She has introduced irregularities into their perfect system." Alina felt Maya's consciousness brush against hers, sharing fragmented images of sterile laboratories where beings of incredible diversity were subjected to endless tests and classifications. She's not just disrupting their research, Alina realized. She's connecting with the other specimens, teaching them to communicate across containment barriers. Resonance's crystalline form shimmered in what might have been approval. The Concordat's fundamental weakness is their inability to comprehend connection without purpose. They cannot fathom why beings would choose to aid others without evolutionary benefit. Multiple screens activated around the chamber, showing feeds from different sections of the Concordat's research complex. In each one, captive species were exhibiting behaviors that clearly confused their observers, sharing resources, cooperating on tasks, communicating through methods undetectable by monitoring systems. Maya calls it the empathy network, Luminance said, a radical concept among the stars. The Concordat built their civilization on perfect hierarchy. The notion that strength might emerge from horizontal cooperation threatens their entire understanding of cosmic order. A proximity alarm shattered the moment of revelation. On the external monitors, a sleek vessel approached the station, its design unmistakably similar to the craft that had taken Maya. "They've tracked your quantum signature," Resonance warned. "You must leave immediately." "No," Alina countered, a plan forming in her mind. "If they're following our connection, we can use it to lead them exactly where we want them to go." She turned to the assembled representatives of the overlooked species, her expression resolute. "Maya has started something they can't comprehend. It's time we showed the Concordat what happens when you take one life from Earth and inadvertently connect it to every suppressed consciousness in the galaxy." Their approach to the Concordat research facility was an exercise in audacious deception. Wei's camouflage technology transformed their vessel into a perfect replica of a collector scout ship, while Okoro piloted with movements so erratic and unpredictable that the facility's defensive algorithms registered them as system errors rather than potential threats. The Concordat's perfect order is their vulnerability, Resonance had explained before their departure. They cannot conceive of intentional chaos or beneficial randomness. The facility itself defied human comprehension, a megastructure encircling a captive neutron star, harvesting its energy while using its gravitational field to maintain countless experimental environments within. Alina felt Maya's presence growing stronger as they approached, her daughter's consciousness reaching out like a beacon. "Approaching docking protocol," Okoro announced, her hands dancing across controls that responded as much to thought as to touch. "If the Nomad's intelligence is accurate, we'll have 18 minutes before the biological verification scan." Wei activated the final phase of their camouflage, a molecular shell that would temporarily mask their human signatures. "Remember, we can only maintain this disguise while in motion. The moment we remain still for more than 30 seconds, their sensors will detect the inconsistency." They docked without incident, the facility's automated systems accepting their forged identification codes, a gift from Maya transmitted through their quantum connection. Inside, the stark geometrical perfection of the Concordat architecture stretched in every direction, a labyrinth of perfect efficiency designed to categorize, contain, and control all forms of life deemed worthy of study. Alina felt Maya guiding her through the mental link, steering them away from high-security sectors and toward maintenance tunnels where the oversight was minimal. Through her daughter's eyes, she glimpsed the true scale of the operation. Millions of specimens from thousands of worlds, each in customized containment designed to test their limits and capabilities. "They're all connected now," Maya's thoughts flowed into Alina's mind. Not just telepathically, but through something deeper, a shared recognition across species that transcends physical barriers. The Concordat calls it a contamination. I call it awakening. They navigated through increasingly complex security zones, their movement patterns, designed by Okoro to mimic the seemingly random but mathematically predictable paths of maintenance drones, rendering them functionally invisible to the facility's surveillance. 3 levels remaining, Wei whispered, consulting the 3-dimensional map projecting from his modified communicator. Maya should be in the central research hub, where they keep specimens of particular interest. A sudden shift in the facility's ambient lighting caused them to freeze. Throughout the structure, pale blue illumination transitioned to deep purple, a change that sent a tremor of alarm through Alina's connection to Maya. Primary Administrator Arrival Protocol. Maya's thoughts came urgently. One of the Shapers is inspecting the facility. They suspect something is wrong with the Hive communication network. "How much time do we have?" Alina subvocalized, knowing Maya would sense her thoughts. "Minutes, not hours. Mom, you need to understand what I've become before we meet. The tests they've subjected me to have activated something dormant in human neurology, a capacity for quantum consciousness that exceeds anything in their classification system. They think I'm just another specimen. But I've become the first node in a new kind of network, and once they realize what's happening, they'll try to sterilize this entire sector." The final door separated them from the central research hub. Beyond it, Alina knew, waited not just her daughter, but a confrontation with beings who had studied thousands of civilizations, yet had never encountered a force as unpredictable as a mother's determination to save her child. The central research hub defied Alina's expectations. Instead of sterile containment cells, she entered a vast spherical chamber filled with shimmering equations that hung in the air like constellations. At its center stood Maya, not imprisoned, but surrounded by interfaces that responded to her slightest gesture. Alina rushed forward, maternal instinct overriding caution. When they embraced, a surge of energy rippled outward from their connection, causing the facility's lights to flicker momentarily. "You shouldn't have come," Maya whispered, though her fierce grip betrayed her words. "But I'm so glad you did." Alina pulled back, studying her daughter. Maya looked both unchanged and fundamentally transformed, her physical appearance the same as the day she vanished. But her eyes now held depths that seemed to reflect the cosmos itself. "What have they done to you?" Alina asked. "Not done to me," Maya corrected, returning to the floating equations with practiced ease. "Done through me." The collector's experiments were designed to map human cognitive limits. Instead, they provided the perfect conditions for quantum neural expansion. Wei approached the equations, his scientific curiosity temporarily overriding their precarious situation. "These are consciousness mapping algorithms, but they're operating at scales I've never seen before. The Concordat believes consciousness is hierarchical, that more complex brains automatically create more elevated awareness," Maya explained. "What they cannot understand is that consciousness isn't a pyramid, but a network. Every sentient being in this facility has been reaching out, seeking connection through the most fundamental level of reality." Okuro's voice cut through their reunion. "Security protocols are changing. Something's happening facility-wide." On the chamber's monitors, they watched as containment systems throughout the structure began to malfunction. Species that had been isolated for generations suddenly found themselves able to communicate directly. The Concordat's perfect order was dissolving into a chaos of newfound connection. "They think it's a systems error," Maya said, a smile playing at her lips. "They can't conceive that their specimens are choosing to connect despite having no evolutionary reason to do so." A deep resonance shook the chamber. Through viewports in the curved walls, they glimpsed a massive vessel docking with the facility, a craft of such perfect geometric precision that it seemed to bend light around its edges. "The primary shaper," Maya explained, sudden urgency in her voice. "They've realized something fundamental is changing. They're coming to reset the entire facility, sterilize all specimens that might have been contaminated by irregular patterns." "We need to leave now," Okuro insisted. "We can't," Maya countered. "Not yet. What's happening here is bigger than just me or even Earth. The Concordat built their entire civilization on the premise that consciousness is a resource to be harvested and controlled. What we've started here could transform every world under their dominion." Alina felt the weight of the moment. This had begun as a mother's quest to save her child, but had evolved into something that could alter the course of galactic history. "What do you need from us?" she asked simply. Maya's gaze met hers, determination mirroring determination. "The Shaper will try to initiate a quantum purge protocol. We need to redirect it, not to destroy connections, but to amplify them. For a few critical moments, we need to make every consciousness in this facility part of a single network." "And then?" Wei asked. Maya turned toward the approaching vessel, her expression resolute. "Then we show them what they never understood about taking one life from Earth, that humans don't just seek connection, we transform through it." The primary shaper entered the research hub like a perfect storm contained within a crystalline form, a being of such geometric precision that human eyes struggled to process its dimensions. It moved with the confidence of a species that had never known failure or contradiction. Anomaly detected. Its voice resonated directly in their minds, bypassing the crude mechanism of sound. Containment breach protocol initiated. Throughout the facility, Alarm frequencies cascaded through every chamber. On monitoring screens, they watched as containment fields strengthened around thousands of specimens, preparing to erase what the Concordat perceived as contamination. "Now, Mom," Maya whispered, taking Elena's hands and placing them on the central interface. "Remember when you taught me to identify bioluminescent patterns in deep-sea creatures? How you showed me that seemingly random flashes actually formed complex communication networks? That's what we need to show them." Elena closed her eyes, allowing her consciousness to merge fully with Maya's for the first time. The sensation transcended their previous connections. Mother and daughter became a singular awareness that expanded outward, touching the quantum link Maya had painstakingly constructed throughout the facility. Wei and Okoro positioned themselves at auxiliary interfaces, implementing the modifications Maya had prepared, redirecting the purge protocol's energy from destruction to amplification. The primary shaper moved toward them with impossible speed, but in the quantum realm where their consciousness now operated, its movements seemed glacial. "Species throughout the facility are responding," Wei reported, wonder in his voice. "The network is stabilizing." The purge protocol activated, a wave of restructuring energy designed to reset every specimen to baseline isolation. Instead, channeled through Maya and Elena's combined consciousness, it became a catalyst for connection, linking every mind in the facility within a single harmonious network. The primary shaper froze, its perfect form trembling as it encountered something beyond its conceptual framework. Thousands of different species choosing to merge awareness not for survival or advantage, but simply to exist together in understanding. "Impossible," it communicated, its certainty fracturing. "There is no evolutionary benefit to this configuration." "That's what you never understood," Elena projected, her thoughts amplified through the network. "Life isn't just about survival. Connection itself has value beyond function." Through their shared consciousness, Maya addressed not just the shaper, but the entire Concordat hierarchy. Thousands of previously isolated beings added their awareness to the message, creating a chorus of understanding that transcended language. "We are not your specimens. We are not data points in your perfect system. We are beings who choose connection over isolation, cooperation over hierarchy. You took one life from Earth thinking it was insignificant, but in doing so, you created a bridge between worlds that would never have otherwise met." The facility's systems began responding to this new unified consciousness, reconfiguring from a research prison into something unprecedented, a true symposium of minds. The primary shaper's rigid form softened as, for the first time in its ancient existence, it experienced reality through perspectives not its own. "The Concordat will resist," it warned, though uncertainty now colored its communication. "They can try," Maya responded, her consciousness still merged with her mother's, and now thousands of others. "But they took one life from Earth and inadvertently created something they cannot control, a universe that has learned to recognize itself through diversity rather than perfection." As the neutron star at the facility's heart pulsed with new rhythms reflecting this unified consciousness, Elena realized that their journey had come full circle. She had set out to reclaim what was taken from her, only to discover that her daughter had become something far greater than either of them could have imagined. The catalyst for a cosmic awakening that would ripple across the stars for millennia to come.